Welcome to the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast, where two guys drink coffee and talk about stuff. And now your hosts, Phil and Jimmy Nick.
In 3, 2, and uno. This is Phil with the Coffee with Phil and Jim podcast. We are in the studio ready to do another podcast, and I'm here with my wonderful, awesome co-host,
Jimmy Nick.
And we got a lot to talk about today. But as always, before we do, I want to remind everybody that you can search, subscribe, and share. We're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Spreaker, and Apple Podcast app. And we constantly trying to put things up on our social media and things like that. So check it out and see what we put up. I put a poll up the other day on Facebook.
Yes.
And I put on there what would you be willing to give up? And I'll pull it up real quick too. But I put, what would you be willing to give up for God? And here, let me pull this up real quick, and I'll tell you the stats.
Oh, you're getting stuff back on this, are you?
So I said, if you had to, what would you be willing to give up to follow Jesus?
Yes.
I put two options: time and money. And 44% of people that took the poll said time, and 56% said money. And with that, we also had Jace comment and said option C, both. So
yeah, that's good. But what else you willing to give up?
Yeah, that's a
besides time and money.
That's good.
Yeah, willing to deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow it.
I don't know. That's pretty hard to do.
That means when you do that, you give up on all your hopes and dreams and everything else you want to do in this world.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're willing to walk away from anything and everything. If you're not willing to do that, then you can't be his disciple.
That's right.
So, but if 56%, that sounds like somebody's trying to buy their way through this thing. That's what it sounds like to me. You know, it's like, let's go hire some missionaries and send them out, and I don't have to go. That's basically what they do in America anyway, isn't it?
Yep. They just really and it takes the responsibility off of them and puts it on somebody else.
Right.
I've got to play this. I've got a couple of videos here.
Okay.
And I'll post the links to them on I think they're on YouTube, but I'll post a link somewhere on our social media and stuff so our listeners can look. But there's two. Hold on, where's it at? There's two of these. And it's called MeChurch. It's a video called MeChurch.
MeChurch, eh?
Yes.
Not your church, MeChurch.
Yeah, but okay. Listen, it's like a minute video. So
okay.
So here's. Tell me this is not churches today. Okay, let's see.
It couldn't be.
Imagine a church where every member is passionately, wholeheartedly, and recklessly calling the shots.
I have a busy work week, and by the time Sunday rolls around, I'm tired. So how about a church service that starts when I get there?
Can do. When you arrive, we begin.
This guy, he plays by his own rules. We want to find a church where if he starts screaming, we're not the bad guys, right?
Say no more. If your baby's screaming, you stay seated. The others around you can leave.
You know, financially, Sherry and I don't give a lot to the church, but we'd sure like to know who does.
All right, if you join now, you'll know what every person gives in detail.
When I'm in the church service, can my car get a buff and a wax?
Not just that, but an oil change and a tune-up.
Hey, how about tickets to the Super Bowl?
That's asking too much.
I'm serious. If I'm going to join, I want tickets to the big game.
All right, you join now, and we'll get you there.
I like a pony.
Look in your backyard. MeChurch, where it's all about you.
All right, I like that church.
Do you like that? Okay, hold on. I got one more. This is a part 2
That's funny.
of that, and this one's even better. I love this one. This is my favorite. Okay, MeChurch part 2 here.
Imagine a church where every member is passionately, wholeheartedly, and recklessly calling the shots.
I don't know who sets the worship center temperature, but why does it have to be so cold?
Why do you have to be so right? Heated chairs are now being installed.
This one wants a small church, but I'm afraid if it's too small, they're going to make me volunteer like crazy. And I don't stack chairs, do I?
Makes total sense.
Don't stack chairs.
Join now and we'll let you decide the size of our church.
We're millennials, and we want a church that...
Say no more. Any requests you have will be granted immediately.
Parking is horrible. It takes me almost 6 minutes to get from my car to the building. Ugh.
It's going to take me 6 seconds to tell you a valet service is on the way.
My pastor's preaching, it's all over the map. I say, I don't know, stick with the books of the Bible. We should be only exegetical.
Okay, next week we start John chapter 1, verse 1. And we'll even start pronouncing that word the way you said it.
Hey, I'd like the sermon to be no longer than 30 minutes.
How does 15 minutes sound?
Hey, anybody willing to go 15 should be willing to go to 10.
You drive a hard bargain. But from now on, 5-minute sermons it is.
Now you're talking.
MeChurch, where it's all about you.
Yeah.
Where do you sign up for this?
I want to know where that MeChurch is at.
No joke.
That would be awesome. I would
I
join
think
that.
it's probably, I'd say large portions of churches in America.
Yeah, for sure.
Be about it. I have to tell you, I've been reading a book here called It's Hard to Believe, and part of it I want to just bring out here real quick.
Okay.
It goes along the line of self-esteem church is what we're talking about, just what you've been talking about here. But Robert Schuller wrote a book in, I believe, in the 1980s called Self-Esteem, the New Reformation. And in that book, he wrote, it was precisely, the classical theology was erred in its insistence that the theology be God-centered and not man-centered. So according to Schuller, the first thing we have to do is put an end to the classical God-centered theology and replace it with the man-centered theology. Now that there, as you look around in the modern-day church, if you're Olsteins and those, which Olstein is a friend of Schuller's grandson that's running that church out there now.
Oh, okay.
And so basically that's what you're getting there. Everything is shifted from God-centered to man-centered. And so that goes right along with your MeChurch here.
Yeah.
It's all about me. It's not about God. And how God should fulfill and meet my needs. You know?
Yeah.
And that, it's either, we're either the ones, getting rid, divesting of ourselves, We either come to the end of ourselves. It isn't about God coming and doing everything for us.
Right.
But that's what we want. We want a genie that whenever we need something, we just call him up and he comes and takes care of it for us. Because if you see in most prayers, it's usually about something that I want. You hear people saying, well, I need this, I need that.
Right.
But they never pray, what is your will, God? How many of them do you ever hear say, Lord, what is your will? What is your will for this church?
Yeah.
What is your will for this, people in this in the room right now? What would you have us do? And it's, but it all seems to be about me, myself, and I, and that's basically one of the major problems in the church today. It's not God-centered; it's man-centered.
Right. So in that, you have people's preferences. They
watered down the gospel. They watered the gospel down and actually changed it. So it's whatever, we're not going to talk about repentance. We're not going to talk about dying to self, taking up your cross and following him. We're not going to discuss this because, that's too hard a subject for people to deal with. We're just going to tell them about all the good things God can do for you.
Yeah.
And so that's why a lot of people come to church, and that's what they get out of it.
And then they become inwardly focused.
Right.
Instead of outwardly focused.
Well, that's what they came there for anyway, to get their needs met.
Right.
They didn't come there with a sense of repentance that, hey, I'm scum, I'm a lowlife. I need Jesus Christ, and I'm lost, and he's the only way out of this.
Yeah.
My only hope is Christ. But they come there. A lot of people don't repent. They have no idea they need to. You know, because of this basic idea in this man-centered gospel thing is that we're basically good anyway. You know, if we really reasoned it out on our own, we could probably come to this conclusion anyway.
Yeah.
But actually, we can't. We were drawn to God. We couldn't find Him on our own if we wanted to.
Well, think about those that do, the slim few that do come and they are repentant, they are broken,
right?
You know, and all this stuff, and see how they allow God to use them,
right.
And what, you know, because they're the next whatever.
Yeah, but see, if you got a congregation though that's been on the Selfesteem, you know, gospel here, you go into a group like that. How long before you start becoming like them?
Yeah.
I mean, like you hear an old boy here get elected to Washington D.C. up there, and he's really an honest, nice man. He's out there telling you the truth. He goes up there 2 years later, he's just like the other. He's just like the rest of them.
Oh yeah.
You know.
Oh yeah, for sure.
And that can happen in a church too. You know, if you might go in there with some ideas, I'm here to serve God, and then when it's where you know it, you end up just like everybody else in the building.
Yeah.
And
exactly.
so nothing ever gets done.
Yeah, because if they come into a church like that, and they're broken, repentant, and all that stuff, but the church system isn't like that. Yeah.
You're going to end up being just like them. You're going to sit down in the pew and do exactly nothing. And basically that's what we've been doing anyway for 400 or 500 years.
Yeah, well, yeah.
You know, really, you know. Yeah. Because somewhere along the line they got rid of discipleship. They didn't bring people in, disciple them, so that they could turn around and disciple other people.
Yeah.
That just stopped somewhere, and so you don't have the mechanism in place when somebody does come to salvation in Jesus Christ, they should automatically be discipled, and so they can go on and disciple and multiply. Mm-hmm. But somewhere along the line that stopped. Right. They made discipleship a program that you go through, and at the end of so you get a certificate, I guess, saying you're a disciple of Jesus Christ, which is actually
unfinished.
You know, this is a life learning. It's something that goes on from the day you start being discipled. You're a disciple for life.
Right.
You're constantly learning about Christ. Always learning about Christ along the way.
And building a relationship with
and building
Christ.
that relationship. Yeah. So it's not a program. It's not something that you go and teach somebody in 6 weeks. Oh, I got it now. I'm a disciple, and I'm going to sit in my pew now.
Yeah.
You know, chalk it up. I'm a disciple. That's not the way it works. But we won't put. I don't know. There is an urgency here, and we act like there isn't. I mean, you know, people are going to die and go to hell if we don't stop doing what we're doing and get the message out there.
Well, there's something I do want to talk about. We're talking about church and disciples and things like that, but you know what I've noticed is there's no loyalty. There's no loyalty to Christ. There's no loyalty to the church.
No. I mean, you know, that loyalty part, no, there's nothing there at all. I mean, as far as being loyal to Christ at all, you know, it's just the next whim come along and change somebody's mind.
Yeah.
You know, but how many people you come into church that are truly not converted to? They came in for a whole lot of different reasons. And none of them really was, you know, because they were broken.
Yeah.
You know, they've been broken. They've been, you know, brought to their knees. Mm-hmm. And they know their need for Christ. How many people are there they grew up in it, you know? It's just part of life. It's just showing up on Sundays and singing in the choir or, you know, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
Maybe even teach a, you know, Bible school or something, you know. Right. Sunday school class or something. But, you know, and that's church, you know. That's the American church. That's it.
That's what it is. You're exactly right.
But where's the loyalty to Christ in that?
Yeah, because here's the deal. If you're truly loyal to Christ, wouldn't you naturally be loyal to the church?
Well, you should be.
His
it's
people,
his church.
His cause.
It's his church.
Yeah.
You know, you should be loyal to everything that is his.
So maybe that opens up a bigger can of worms, and maybe there's a lot of believers and people that think they are believers in churches that are not loyal. And, you know, let's go back to the first oracles of God, right? Let's go back to love God and love others, right? And what does that really mean to do that? And the natural occurrence of both of those things, but the first thing is love God with all your heart, soul, mind, and Mark says strength, right? So if you're developing this with it, you can't help but be around your church, you know.
Right.
And there's also, you know, there's all kinds of different types of churches, obviously, right? And you know, and there's scads and scads of people that are connecting to something like a fellowship church or discovery church or life church, and these big things that have things hopping and going and all that stuff. But the problem with some of those churches is you don't have the connectivity, and it still becomes preference driven,
right?
You know, and so you're really not there's really not a connection to Christ. There's really not a connection to others, and the serving and the loyalty is only based upon your group that you meet up with and things like that, and instead of what you truly actually see in the New Testament.
Well, like I said, you go back to what Schuller, it says here that in his book that the pearl of great price is self-respect and self-esteem. He went on to say success is being defined as a gift of self-esteem that God gives us as a reward for our sacrificial service in building self-esteem in others. Win or lose, if we follow God's plan as faithfully as we can, we will feel good about ourselves. That is success. Now, you tell me where the gospel is in any of that.
Right.
Well, you know, where is any of that in there?
Well, here's the problem, and it's said in there just a few times, but self.
Self. It's all about self.
That's right.
And that's what the modern American church, basically, that's what it's come down to.
Mm-hmm.
It's what's in this for me.
Yeah.
You know, they don't seem to realize you're lost. We're all lost. We need Savior. And the only one that can save us is Jesus Christ.
Right.
We don't come here to bargain with him. I mean, what do you got to bargain with?
Well, God, if you
if you'll do this, you know, I'll be there every Sunday, you know.
Yeah.
You know, even come on Wednesday if you do the other thing, you know. You know, I'm willing to give you 3 or 4 hours a week.
Yeah. Yeah. That reminds me of that person that told me we were in a group study, and they told me, well, I give God 10% of my day.
10% of your day, huh?
It's like, okay, only 10%, and what do you do? I mean, do you have your little devotion time and your prayer time, and that's done? Or, I mean, how do you give God 10%? I mean, isn't it a reasonable service to give our bodies a living sacrifice to Him? Don't we owe Him our lives? You know?
Everything.
I mean, come on. But we are so married to this world. We're so married to the things of this world. And what happens, I think, is a lot of times Christians, believers, they'll sprinkle little Christianese on top of that to where they still get what they want, still get what they desire. And
well, it comes back. They want to feel good about themselves.
Yeah.
And if you can come in there and, you know, you sing a few songs, you go home, you're feeling good. You may never worship Christ the whole time you're in the room, but you do come away feeling good about yourself. And that gives you enough spark in your, battery so you can come back the next Sunday.
Yeah.
You know, that gives you enough to get through the week. I got enough Jesus on that Sunday morning. I don't have to worry about him till next Sunday, you know. I mean, we are so, I don't know, what do we say, stupid? Basically, I mean, he died on the cross for us, and we treat him like, it's like, well, this is an option here. It's either heaven or hell, and you got to choose which one you want. Do you want Christ or not? If you don't show up. That's basically it.
That's right. That's right.
And I don't see what the objection is to 242. I don't know why people get upset about discipleship. I mean, it's primary, and the primary thing is so you become a disciple, so you can go out and disciple others, but also to go out and fulfill the Great Commission. That's what we're here for. Otherwise, if you're saved, it'll take us out of here. If that was the end game of it, wasn't it?
Yeah.
If we were saved, hey, you're out of here, Hey, yeah, we're off to heaven,
Well, I recently listened to Tom Rainer's, one of his podcasts he does. And of course, his deals aren't like ours. I mean, as far as time, I mean, he does like a 10-minute deal, or I think 20 minutes the most he's ever done. But because he's trying to get the point across and do things. But I listened to one, or watched one the other day, talked about evangelism and why churches don't evangelize. And one of the things was, that they've basically been saved too long, and they're comfortable in that salvation. But they're comfortable in the salvation, but they're not gonna tell anybody. They're not going to care to tell anybody that type of stuff.
Basically, you're saying they don't want to.
Right.
When it comes down to it, you can make up all the excuses in the world. If you don't go out there and talk to somebody, it's because you just simply don't want to.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, there's nothing stopping you. I talk to people. I don't get very good responses out of some of them. I mean,
right.
But then I don't expect good responses out of everybody.
No.
I've been called a few names here and there, but that's beside the point.
But but that's part of it. And some people are just so scared. What
are you gonna be scared of? I mean, you're going to get heaven. What's the point? You're going to tell somebody they're going to beat you down? They might beat you down, but
yeah.
You get a special place.
Well, like here, James 1:8 says, "A double-minded man is unstable in all his ways." Right? I think there's a lot of people, a lot of believers specifically, that live a duplicitous life.
Yeah.
Genuinely, they do.
Right.
So they're one way around church and church folk and all that stuff, and then they're another way outside, and they're genuinely doing that. And so there's a lot of instability in that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like I said, double-minded man, somewhere along the line we've got to make the decision it's Christ and nothing else. Mm-hmm. And that's an individual's got to do that. You can't do it for him.
Right.
But, why are you here if you're not willing to submit completely and totally to Christ?
Would it be too bold of a statement to say if you're not in it to do that stuff, then you probably should go join the Elks Club or go join a book club.
Church.
Yeah, go
do something that you
right.
You want to be at.
If I wasn't personally invested like I am, and doing what I'm doing, serving and all that stuff, and the calling of Christ upon my life, I wouldn't waste my time coming to church.
No,
I wouldn't waste my time being part of a church family.
Yeah, who are you trying to impress here?
Yeah, I'd go do something else.
Do something else, yeah. Might as well.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of people that, because of the way they're brought up, and they're brought up in church, that this is this model of church that they have, that's all they know, and if you go trying to change it, they're not going to like it.
Right.
Because this is what we've always done, that old saying. And so when you go start saying, well, this is look what the Word says. The Word says we're supposed to do this, this, and this. Well, that ain't what Grandpa did, and so I'm not going to do it either.
Yeah, that's right.
But who's in charge? Is it Grandpa's church or is it Jesus' church? I mean, that's where we got. That's the question you got to ask. Was it Grandpa's church? I don't care if he started the thing. Christ started the church.
Yeah.
With the 12, it didn't start on Pentecost. It started with the 12. Mm-hmm. So that's where the church is. It's his church, not our church. So forget about what Grandpa did and find out what Christ did and do what Christ said to do.
Right.
Christ didn't do everything he said to do. He did himself. When he said, deny yourself, he denied himself. He did take up his cross.
Yeah.
So let's go do this. The one thing we fail to do, it seems to be, in America, is we are not willing to submit to the lordship of Jesus Christ. That's it.
And that's
how many
a key
people
word, yeah.
have bowed down to Christ as Lord, to his lordship? How many people have actually done that?
Yeah.
How have made him Lord of their lives? How many people have really done that? In a given church, how many would you say?
Oh, are we doing percentages?
No, we're going to do numbers probably. I don't do percentages anymore. It's either 2, 4.
That's right.
But if you're not willing to make him Lord of your life, you'll never serve him, because you're still trying to be Lord of the castle there.
That's right, and that's a good word of serving. You're not going to serve him.
Unless he's Lord of your life.
That's right.
When you deny yourself, when you put him in control of your life, and you're going to do what he wants, the way he wants, and how he wants, and nothing else matters but that. Yeah. That comes first before anything else, including family. Like I said, if you're not going to deny your family.
Wait, you're talking about I got to in my family?
Yeah, even your family.
What?
You got to deny your family. I know that's been a subject around our church here lately, but and I've got a message for people like that. Would you want to hear it?
Oh, sure.
Okay. No, that ain't it. No,
it's darn commercials.
I just popped up. Here we go.
Okay.
Here it is. Here it was. You're kidding me.
Come on.
It's all I get nothing but silence here. Hear what I got? This is my message to them.
That's awesome. Speaking of hitting the road, Jack. Bye, dear. Have fun. Okay, thank you. That's good. Hit the road,
Hit the road, Jack. I mean, that's what Jesus would tell you.
Mm-hmm.
Same way you did what with the rich young ruler.
And those that said, "Oh, let me
go bury my dad," but what he was going to do, Dad was still alive. He was waiting around till he got his inheritance, and then I'll come follow you. Well, no, you can't do that, Or, you can't put family and you can't put things ahead of Christ. But we do all the time. Mm-hmm. And in America, it's, anyway, we're a money-grubbing society anyway,
That's right.
And we sure love things because everybody's got a bunch of things.
Yeah.
And then when a new one comes out, then we got to have the new thing.
Yeah.
So we're very consumer-driven, and we want things. And we've been taught to have things.
Yeah.
Because if you don't have this, then, something wrong there, you're being denied something you need. Because you listen to the commercials, you need all that stuff.
Yeah, that's right.
But you want it or not, you need it.
They make it seem that you really need.
Yeah, but do you understand? Do you get that there though? They'll put a commercial on there and tell you need that, you need that. And they're like, yeah, I need that. And they'll run out and get it and put it on and say, well, you need Jesus. Nah, I don't need that.
Yeah, that's right. Oh, I got this.
I got this. It's crazy.
This works out. I'm good with this.
But you bring up, I don't need him. I need that new TV with the smart TV.
That's right. That's right. Yeah, and we're really American Christianity is just so off base, and not to say that we have everything going perfectly. That would be stupid to even presume that we are.
No, we don't have it perfect, but we know that we see the problems, and we want to try to get to correcting those problems and turn this over to Christ. Let the Holy Spirit run this still. And do exactly what Christ tells us to do.
Right.
It's in the book. A lot of people don't read the book, but it's in the book.
Yeah.
It's there.
Yeah.
But a lot of people don't want to pay attention to it. So, I've been thinking about that lately here too. On that is, even in myself, for years here, I kind of walked by that, like, yeah, I hear it, and kind of deny things. Not really deny it, just don't pay attention to it because nobody else was doing it. So go out and Matthew 28,
Yeah.
What are we supposed to do? The Great Commission.
Yeah.
But how many people hear it all the time, but nobody does it, does it, It's like, well, that was first century.
That's right. Yeah,
we're 21st century.
Yeah, that's right.
We're 2,000 years later. I mean, what do you expect?
Yeah, what's that doesn't apply to me. Yeah.
I think it was written to them back then, wasn't it? Some people think that.
Yeah. Some people think that Acts 2:42 is it was for them back then. It's not for us now.
Of course it's for us. Everything in there. I tell you, we're just a lazy bunch of people. All it is. I'm one of the biggest, laziest ones I know. It's true, It's taken me a long time to get to the fact that, it's got to be Christ and nothing else. I mean, it took me a long time to get to that. Mm-hmm. Realization, hey, man, I've been kind of just taking it easy going on there. Well, something's got to change.
Yeah, something.
Something has to change, and he ain't going to change, so it's got to be me.
That's right.
He's not going to say, oh, yeah, it's all right.
He's
all right,
change,
Jim. Yeah, it's all right,
Yeah.
I like you anyway.
That's right. You okay.
You're okay. Don't worry about it. I don't think he's going to do that. He's going to tell you, what I told you to do, do it.
Yeah.
That's it. But we act like, that's in the Bible. Well, that's him.
That's right.
I know what it says in the Bible, but, that's him. And that's what he wants us to do.
That's a direct revelation of himself.
I know it.
And
how else are we to know about God or know about Christ? It has to come through the Word.
That's right.
It's not going to beam down from outer space or something,
Yeah.
I've been enlightened.
Been enlightened. Release the demons.
It's crazy stuff.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. It's got to be a change come about. I hope that through Highland Baptist Church is that we're starting to see it like it should be. And it's going to take a while to get there, because when you come into a place and it's, you don't have that. I guess, like he said, if he had started from the ground up a new church, you could probably do that.
Right.
But when you come into an existing church and, people have been doing things a certain way for a long time, it takes time to bring that around and change it.
That's right.
Because, I think we're starting to get people now that are really wanting to do this and that want to see it work.
Yeah, and they're starting to serve. They're starting to invest. They're starting to, do those things that it's a natural occurrence. But it's almost, it seems like, and again, this is perception, but it seems like those that are doing it are, how do I put it? I guess from the outside, it's almost like they're not a typical what you would think church member would be. It's ones that do have baggage and things like that, but have realized that, hey, Christ redeemed me from that. He is sanctifying me. He's changing me as I follow him and as I grow and all this stuff, and they have a unique spiritual spark in their hearts on this. And then you have some that are, oh, well, I already know all this, but they're not doing anything. It's...
Well, then they really don't know it.
Right.
Because if they know it, you'll start doing it. And that takes, like I said, I skipped through it. I got in. I went up by the time I was saved. I was pushing 30, so I figured, hey, that's what they're doing. That's what I'm going to do. I don't know anything else about church.
Right.
So you just hop in there and get with them just like they do. All right.
Yeah, like, oh, this is okay. I can do this.
I can
this
do
is
this.
easy.
It's easy. Yeah, it's not as hard as I thought it'd be.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, that's the thing, isn't it? That's the thing is you go first century church.
It's going to get a little rough there.
That's right.
So, I don't know.
You're going to have to give up some things, let alone what you're supposed to be doing is denying yourself anyways, and changing your schedule and changing all that stuff to fit that. And quite honestly, just speaking from a fellow minister perspective, there are times where there's an activity, or there's a time where invite somebody over for dinner or something like that, and maybe I've had a really rough, hard day. It's just like, and it's really not over, but I go home because we have company coming over or something. And I'm just like, I do not want to do this. I don't want to. I want to go home and I want to lay on my couch and I want to watch Judge Judy, and I just want to. I want to space out. And
Judge Judy.
Yeah.
Okay.
Like Judge Judy? Judge Judy and Judge Mathis and People's Court. Those are my shows, yo.
Okay. Is this a Texas thing? 'Cause I know the pastor was talking about it. Brother Hugh was one that I guess it would be his grandfather-in-law.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah, he said the man loved his soap operas. So I just wondered, is this a Texas thing? You got to watch Judge Judy, and
that's right.
The pastors actually watch soap operas. Get some Dr. Phil in there with it.
No, I don't do Dr. Phil. He's a moron. I don't do that.
Yeah, he's from Oklahoma. So.
Is he really?
He's from Oklahoma City, yeah.
Oh, I didn't know.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm not going to comment on that, but
in fact, I probably think him and old Elizabeth Warren grew up in the same neighborhood, probably. Where they are.
Oh, man.
I'm not saying anything.
But anyway, we're gonna get hate mail.
I know.
But anyways, so we, but then, then the spirit inside me goes, no, I want you to do this. I did this for a reason. And so it's like what Brother Travis has taught us. It's not about your feelings. You just obey, and your feelings catch up, right? And so, like a scenario like that, you do, and it's like at the end you're like, oh, I'm so glad I did that. You made connections. You need somebody. I mean, the way that's happened. Like the other night, we had a backyard movie deal here at the house, and with teenagers, and it was going to be late because we had to wait for the sun to go down and all that stuff. And I was so exhausted. I was so tired. I couldn't think. And I was like, I don't want to do this. But again, that little still small voice goes, nope, I want you to do this. Okay. And I was glad I did, because we made some connection. Teenagers brought some friends, and when we had a good time, and I think it was those things that kind of helped build that unity and things like that.
Yeah.
And God sustained me,
Right.
I mean, physically. Now, once my head hit that pillow, I was out.
Yeah, I know what that's like.
But yeah, but those are the type of things that we do, and we're being used by God in that, and so forth. But what believer, what church member actually does that? What church member voluntarily, not on a Sunday, says, "Hey, why don't you come over for dinner?" Or, "Hey, why don't you hang out?" Or
That's true.
Things like that. I don't know. It gets frustrating seeing all that. It gets frustrating seeing that there's people that are truly, genuinely saved, and they have some kind of connection to a local church, and yet they do nothing. And the systemic problems of...
Can a lot of that, though, come back to people not doing anything? And does it come back to relationship again?
Oh, most definitely, yeah.
Their relationship with Christ, the more they're involved in Christ, the more they're going to start doing things.
That's right.
It's going to become more than just coming in, saying a couple songs, hearing the sermon, and going home.
Right.
You're going to start looking to do what Christ wants to do, but the only way you're going to get there is through a personal relationship with Him.
That's right.
That's where I erred out there for the longest. I knew He was and everything, but I didn't have that personal relationship. Mm-hmm. And of course, I had to go through a lot of bad things happen there. But it's in that I grew into that relationship with Him,
right.
And I see how much He truly loves me and what He was willing to bring me to my knees. I'm glad He did.
Yeah, and you naturally, because of that, right? You naturally want to reciprocate that love, right?
Yeah.
You see, God proves His love to you, and not just through Christ and that, but just daily, right?
Right.
And you're like, you want to reciprocate that.
Well, once I've seen this, what else is there? There's nothing. What's more valuable than that?
Mm-hmm.
I look at it, it's either Him, because the rest of it's nothing.
That's right.
And that's what it's become. I look at that and go, wow, it's either Him or nothing. Because, wow, somebody shooting at us out there? What's that all about?
Get your gun. That was my ice machine.
Oh, your ice machine.
Yeah,
okay.
We're recording in my house, by the way, if you're listening to this podcast. That's why I said bye to my wife. She was leaving. And
oh, man, they're shooting at us again. But anyway, it's become that's it. There's nothing anymore. There's nothing out there else I want.
Right.
There's nothing more valuable than that. But I didn't get to that point till it started becoming that relationship with Him, that personal relationship. And once you start getting there, I don't want anything else.
Yeah.
There's nothing else. What is there of any value?
That's right. That's right. There's nothing.
What are you going to replace Christ with? What is there anything out there to replace Him with? There isn't.
There's nothing.
There's nothing.
Although we try sometimes.
Oh, people do it all the time.
But there's nothing.
I tried it back in the day,
Yeah.
And I'm most unsaved people, they do anyway. Mm-hmm. They know they're missing something, so they try to fill up with all kinds of things. And in the end, it's Christ what you have to have.
Yeah, no, there's a void in my life, right?
Yeah. And you try to fill it up with everything you can find out there. If you're unsaved, and even some people that go to church all the time, they're out there trying to fill it up with everything but Christ.
Yeah.
And that runs into a lot of problems, and so you end up with all kinds of problems in churches because of that.
Mm-hmm.
Which is first, Christ, or is your pew more important?
Right, yeah.
Is the carpet more important?
That's right. Welcome to MeChurch.
Is getting your way in church more important? Mm-hmm. Which is the greater good, Yeah. Which is Christ, what is Christ's will in that? We don't seek out Christ's will and everything. I want this, I want that. Meet this need, I have this preference. I don't know about you, but what's Christ's will in that? Find out what He wants and do what He wants, because He gave His life for you.
That's
He
right.
died for you. Then don't take that lightly, because we're born and headed straight to hell. And you better look and stop and self-examine along the way here, as you go through church, to make sure you're on the right road, because narrow is that gate and narrow is that path that leads to Christ, and few find it. So you can be on here saying, I'm doing this for Christ, I'm doing that for Christ, but you better self-examine yourself and make sure you're on the right road, because the wide road is full of people that believe they're saved and headed to heaven. But the funny thing about these two roads is that the narrow road, you travel that narrow road, which is very hard to find, and it's very narrow, but at the end it opens up wide into heaven. The wide road, it starts out wide and narrows down to the pit.
Yeah.
And then so, you see the difference. You can travel that wide road all through life, but you're going to end up in the pit. You take that narrow road, you're going to end up into the wider heaven.
Right.
God himself. So I don't know. So I just can't understand why we don't do it. I mean, once you see it, we need to do it. We have to do it. We should do it.
We've talked on the other level too, that just because some people just don't know, and really that becomes an excuse. I think too is, I just don't know. Well,
it's like a judge going to tell you, though. No, ignorance is no excuse.
That's right. That's exactly right.
So find out. If you have questions, ask them.
Right.
I mean, if you have a question, if anybody out there has a question and they need an answer, we can find somebody that's got the answer for you.
Oh yeah, for sure.
If you haven't, we can find somebody, and we're going to go in the Word and we're going to find you an answer.
That's right. Yeah, it's going to be from His truth. It's
from His truth. It's going to be from what He says. So if you say, "Well, I don't know," well, ask the question. You can find out. You can learn. You're never going to get there unless you learn.
That's right.
And that means it comes back to discipling, doesn't it?
Yeah.
So you need to be a disciple. If you're not willing to be a disciple, then you're not really fulfilling what He said.
That's
because
right.
Christ came here. He came here and to make. I ain't going to use that word. But he came here to start discipling.
Yeah.
And that's what He did. That's why He got those 12 together, although one did bug out on Him. But the other 11 stayed, and from that, they became the leaders, which is what He's doing, looking for leaders to disciple people with, and that's what He did for 2.5 years with them.
Well, that's the thing, too, is you can't disciple somebody unless you're being discipled.
Right.
You have to be discipled.
Yeah.
I mean, look what Jesus and His disciples, look how all that went down. Look at the patterns. Look at what was taught. I mean,
well, it's crazy. We look at it like it's something foreign. When I've finally decided it truly can't be the Church of Jesus Christ unless you are discipling.
Yeah.
I mean, it has to be. It's what it says. It's what they were doing. To take that out and act like it's just a program, or, well, we really don't do that much. Every once in a while we might throw a couple lessons in there on it, and then you become your own disciple.
Yeah. It's like, that doesn't work that way.
It don't work that way, but it's a lifelong endeavor anyway. Once you start, you're in it for life.
Yeah, with a person, with people, because there's got to be relationships there. There's be accountability, things
and
like
then you
that.
take it and you multiply it. Just like you take it out and you start discipling others, and you get down there and you want to do some of that there, Metamucil. That's what you got to do here.
That's right. Keep you regular.
Yeah, that's right. Make you a regular disciple.
That's right. Oh man.
But anyway. But no, I mean that's what it's about, and we seem to don't want to talk about it. Nobody wants to talk about it. No churches. How many churches want to do it?
Right.
I mean, it's almost like act like you're saying something that's not in the Bible.
Yeah. You mean I have to do what?
Do what? Well, I didn't see that in there.
Yeah.
I thought that was just what they called them, disciples.
That's right.
That's just them. It wasn't us. We're Christians. We're church members.
We're Christian church members, and there's we're not clergy. We're just laity.
Laity.
Those are Catholic terms, by the way.
By the way, that's
just like missionary. That's a Catholic term.
Yeah.
So
all kinds of Catholic terms out there.
Yeah.
That's crazy stuff.
Golly.
But I don't know. I mean, if we don't get that right, then we're not going to get any of it right. And that comes down to obedience. really, we're not being obedient. We're not being obedient to Christ.
Yeah.
And you know, people should stand up and say, hey, this is what it's supposed to be. Let's do it this way. If people aren't willing to do it this way, then what are you going to tell them when you stand before Him? Mm-hmm. Well, I know what you said, Lord, but there ain't going to be, you won't even be able to talk in this. So
yeah.
You got a pretty good feeling. You won't be able to have your own line of defense when you stand before Him.
That's right.
He's going to be telling you what's going down. That's it.
Yeah, because we're all going to stay. We all have that judgment, right?
Right.
And that's based upon truth, and I mean, what's it going to be like when we're face to face with the King of Kings, Lord of Lords, and we give an account for our life here? What's that going to look like?
Now, Lord, I know it said in there, it said disciple, but Grandpa said just sit in the pew, be happy.
That's right, and do your 10-minute devotional every day.
And
pray before bed.
Go in your prayer closet for a couple minutes.
Yeah.
Fast for a half hour.
Maybe.
Maybe, yeah.
Maybe, yeah. If it's around lunchtime, I'm out.
You're out on that, so. But it's crazy world.
Yeah.
But we seem it's all man-centered, and we seem that's all we want. I don't understand it. So.
When we come down to what is supposed to be done, there's books written about it. There's all kinds about church and discipleship and all that stuff. What really needs to happen is we need to get back down to what Jesus really said, what God has put in place. And we only find that in His Word. And we find that from the Gospels to the New Testament of Acts. And we look at the things these other churches did, Church at Corinth, Ephesus, things like that the Apostle Paul wrote these letters to, and what's really going on. The model we see obviously is in Acts of the church and what it's supposed to look like, and indirect persecution. And we are, I mean, technically we're not really being killed for the gospel, but there's not a lot of people that are really given it anyways. But there is persecution still out there, and there's going to be a time where simple things.
In America, the reason you look around, you say, well, we're not a Christian nation. We never were. That was a crazy idea anyway.
Right.
But the reason there's not any real persecution here. Now, we get bad mouth because, generally they're referring to us as a bunch of hypocrites. We're not living up to what we say to start with. But the whole point is, like I said, if you're not out there evangelizing, if you're not taking the gospel out there, then it ought to be no persecution. If we really all went out and did it, they're going to come back on you.
That's right.
They're going to get real snarly about it when you...
Yeah.
Because they don't like it. When you go out there and start telling them the truth, they're not going to like it. So if everybody went out and was doing it, we'd have persecution big time around here. Mm-hmm. That's the reason we don't have it, is because we're not doing what we were supposed to do, and they don't see us as no threat.
Yeah.
Now, they can just get up and call us a bunch of hypocrites and walk off, and that's it. Now, what are you going to do about it? Give them the gospel. That'll make them real mad.
Yeah, that's right.
That'll make them real mad. Give them the gospel.
Yeah.
And don't get up and debate it with them. Just give them the gospel and walk off. Mm-hmm. And that's it. That's all you're supposed to do is tell them the gospel. Tell them the saving grace of Jesus Christ.
And the gospel is the power, right, in the salvation. And we're the instruments. We're the doulos. We're the ones that just...
Because you see these guys that go out and you see them, they'll videotape it and they'll go out and they'll be asking these people questions. Then they start debating this thing with them. Mm-hmm. It's like, don't debate it. Tell them the gospel. That's it. It's not to be debated. It's to be go out and tell them.
Yeah.
Just go tell them what it is. They either accept it or they don't.
And you also have to live it too, right? I mean, you also have to, because you won't have the.
Well, then the hypocrite.
Yeah.
It comes back in there too. So you need to live the thing, but but speak it when you go out and talk to somebody. Talk from the heart.
That's right.
Just talk from the heart.
And that's the thing too is. If we're all ministers, we're all ambassadors, where this is all what we're supposed to be doing. It's not just your pastor's job or your pastor's or your leadership's job. It's every church member's job to do this.
Right.
And that's what we see. Was 13 different derivatives of preach in the New Testament. Proclaim, to tell, to all those things. We just see that. I think it was one Greek word, preach, that is basically what we would nowadays say a pastor in a pulpit type proclamation, everything else is for evangelistic.
Right.
We're supposed to be evangelists. We're supposed to be
right. We're ministers.
Yeah,
reconciliation.
That's
so,
right.
That's what we should be doing, but we don't do it.
No,
it's because we go and we hire people to do it.
No, and we
that's
get
the American way. Isn't it?
Yeah, that's right. That's the pastor's job, or that's the youth guy's job, or that. No. I mean, you think about it. If I were to walk into high school and start talking to teenagers nowadays and trying to tell them about Jesus, I'm gonna get arrested.
Oh yeah.
But if I empower, encourage, and train and love the teenagers in our group to do that to their friends,
that's okay.
Yeah, and it's going to make a bigger impact because it's their peers. They're going to be able to make that connection better than I can, and that's really kind of what a pastor's supposed to be doing. Is he's the one that does the training, the leadership, and leadership goes out, and it's a multiplication, right? It's a multiplication process to equip the church to do this work. And not to be inwardly focused, and be evangelistic.
Yeah, but it's not just. He oversees everything. He's our overseer, so it's also our responsibility to train others to go out and do this. Exactly. It's not just his, but that's what most churches do. They everything goes back to the pastor, and if they have an associate pastor and then youth pastors, it's all on them to go and do these things, and where it should be all of our responsibility.
Yeah,
to teach each other. We should be taught, and it comes through the word there. But I don't know. It just seems like it's so messed up that it's ridiculous. And most churches say around, well, I don't know about this stuff, And if they're afraid to do something about it, I don't know what you can tell them. I mean, it's either you're going to obey God or you're not. What's Christ say? Right. Do what Christ says.
There's no gray area in between.
What we're wanting to do here isn't some cult thing. Somebody, conjured up or something. What does it say in the scriptures? Yeah. It says, do this. Well, what are you supposed to do? Do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, that's it. He says, do this, you do it. There's no deal here about, so we're not asking anybody to do anything that's not scriptural. And it's in the scriptures. We just want to get back to doing the way it's supposed to be done. Right. And people take offense to that. And they should, I guess, because they're used to what they've normally had.
Well, and
if you try to change that, they're just not going to go along with it.
That's right. And we're also going to look radical, too.
Oh, yeah.
And people, even other believers, will be like, well, that's crazy. Why would you do that?
Why would you go out and tell somebody about Christ?
Yeah.
I mean, that's stupid. I mean, when you stop and think about it, it's also selfish. Mm-hmm. It's one of the most selfish things you do. You have eternal life through the blood of Jesus Christ, and you were not willing to tell somebody else that they can have the same thing. Yeah. Now, all you got to do is tell them. If they reject it, that's on them. Mm-hmm. But at least you told them.
Yeah, at least you did.
You said something. Hey, you want eternal life? You're going to get it through Christ Jesus. Let me tell you how He's worked in my life.
Yeah.
You'll pull out a bunch of scriptures and start throwing off stuff that they wouldn't understand anyway. Tell them, just tell them what Christ has done in your life. And come from the heart. Tell them how you feel about Christ.
Yeah.
And how that relationship you've had with Him, and how it's changed everything, and how you have this future. You're looking forward. You have an eternal outlook here. It's no longer a now outfit, but you're looking forward eternally. Mm-hmm. And you got an eternal perspective now. You're going to be living your life with Him from now on. I'm already living it now with Him. But whoa, look what's coming down the line.
That's right.
It's something really great to look forward to.
Yeah.
We're going to suffer here. We're going to suffer, but that's just like people say. You hear people say, "Oh, God's good, God's good," but the first time something bad happens to Him, what did He do that for?
That's right. You start blaming Him.
Yeah, that's just plain crazy. If He's good when it's good, He's good when it's bad. God's
that's
good,
right. And He's sovereign. He's got the same care. He knows what's happening.
And you come back to Romans 8:28 there, but it will work itself to that.
Yep.
And I don't know. We're in a fallen world, but how can a God love people and send them to hell? Mm-hmm. Well,
Yeah, that's true. Well, I would definitely like to continue talking about evangelism in the church and things like that. Let's go ahead and try to wrap this up a little bit as we get here, and maybe our next podcast we can talk a little bit more about that and get that going, because this is definitely a need that's missing. It's a requirement actually that's missing in churches and believers' lives today.
It's basic.
Yeah.
It's basic. It's Christianity 101. It's basic.
That's right.
And yet we ignored the daylights out of it.
Yep.
I mean, it's just crazy what we've done here.
That's right. That's right. So just want to. We don't hardly ever do this, but I want to thank our listeners. We do have some avid listeners. We do when our new podcasts come out, they reach out to us. I know they reach out to me and say, "Hey man, it's a great podcast. Hey, I was thinking about this," and that intertwines another discussion and things like that. So I think this is such a great avenue to talk about this stuff. But guys, you got to be connected. So connect us with Facebook, Instagram, Spreaker app, YouTube, Apple Podcast app.
Tell Uncle Jim what's on your mind here.
On KHBC.
Now, we're going to end this one up here. Okay, you know who the number one, what would you call them? Infomercial. Mm-hmm. The number one guy has the number one album on infomercials. They always show them late at night.
Yeah.
Well, the number one guy was old Slim Whitman. I don't know if you ever heard of Slim Whitman.
I have not. No.
Okay, Slim Whitman actually was a pretty big country western guy back in the day, back in the 50s and stuff. In fact, it was George Harrison that said he was one of his influences when it came to playing the guitar.
Oh, okay.
So anyway. So Slim Whitman came along in the 80s, and they put out an album called The Best of Slim Whitman. Most people go, who?
That's right.
Who? Well, anyway, that became like the number one selling, infomercial album of all time. I don't know how many it sold, but totally lifetime he sold 70 million records. So somebody was buying the man's records.
Somebody was.
So anyway, old Slim, let me get the right one on there. Old Slim there, he put out a bunch of songs, and so I'm going to end this one here. This is old Slim Whitman here. You decide for yourself if he's worth listening to. A
little slow.
Beyond the sunset, oh blissful morning, when with our Savior heaven is begun, earth's toiling ended, oh glorious dawning, beyond the sunset, when day is done, beyond the sunset, no clouds will gather, no storms will threaten, no
Easy lead. Kind of laid-back music.
Yeah.
Cool.
All right, that's Slim Whitman.
Slim Whitman. Never heard of him.
From out of the past. Oh yeah.
Not bad, not bad. That's some back porch listening music right there.
That's kind of mellow, isn't it?
Yeah.
He's got a bunch of mellow tunes.
That's cool.
But I mean, it was always a joke there because everybody said the best of Slim Whitman. They'd name off his songs. You go, I never heard that. But he sold 70 million records, and then it's the biggest selling infomercial album I think. Of all time. People bought it. I mean, it's like I said, it's not really bad.
Yeah, it's not bad.
Not bad. So, well, anyway, this is Jimmy Nick.
And this is Phil.
And I say adios.
See you later, guys.